Hello, mentors. Welcome to Pan de Muerto, which is one of the three puzzles of meeting 5. So there is a Dia de los Muertos magic raffle. The Pan de Muerto is split into 4 slices, and one of them has a calavera hiding inside. So the calavera will be the prize. But before we dive into the math, I think it's important that we ask students, and also mentors can contribute, what similar games or raffles have you played with friends or family? What other food would you use, or maybe what other prize? And so you're recognizing before jumping into the math what other experiences that are similar students have had. That has many beneficial effects. It increases motivation, right? Because you're asking them about their experience, increases engagement, curiosity also, and also comprehension, because when you now talk about this, they'll have a more reference point to see similarities or differences. Uh, it's enough. It's not enough to just ask about the game, but what is the math behind? Of course, you don't have to ask. Okay, give me the math behind, but just ask some questions that hint into the points or the system, or explaining kind of the game with some math ideas. Okay, so let's look at this game. So two muertos actually play to help you win. So with their powers, they can see where the calavera is. And luckily, they don't want the calavera, so they'll always pick the slices that don't have calavera. And they're planning, right? Only 1 of 4 has calavera. So you pick a slice, then two muertos each pick a piece, eat them, and they reveal that they did not pick the calavera. So that gives you some information, of course. We will note this with an X in this diagram, as we show here. So you pick some slice, the muertos pick 2 slices, and then there's a last piece, a last slice, and you can decide, and this is the game, whether you're gonna stick with your first slice, your first choice, or change it. What would you do? What is the probability that you win with your strategy? And then it's all about playing the game and testing the game. We'll see how to solve this game, but before, there's some challenges, because some students may actually know the solution or pick the solution quite fast. There may be some discussion, of course, but for those students that kind of already get it, and maybe they already work with a puzzle in the past, there's these 3 challenges. What if we change the rules and only one muerto can pick and reveal non-winning slice? What would be your strategy? Does it change? And then what if now there are 5 pieces, only one calavera, and after you pick your slice, 2 muertos reveal a non-winning slice? What would be your strategy? So now it's not just switching, but you have 2 choices now, because there's 2 last pieces. So the third challenge is create another variation to the game, and then find a strategy to maximize. So the variations would be number of calaveras, number of muertos that help you, and of course the number of slices. Those would be pretty much the choices. And this is for really creative students, and students that have a lot of agency and independence now, and are ready to actually pose problems and challenge the mentors. So I asked somebody to kind of randomize this for me, and there's one calavera, so we'll just play 9 rounds and see what happens. But first, there's usually, when you teach this game or when you discuss this game, there's usually 3 approaches. Let's go back a little bit on what would you do. One approach is doesn't matter. It's 50-50, so whether change or not, doesn't matter. So my strategy is whatever, because I'm not gaining or losing anything from keeping or switching my bread, because it's 50-50. Okay, that's one reasoning. We'll see if it's valid or not. The other reasoning, of course, it's I'll change. We'll see why. And the other reasoning is I'll keep my choice, and we'll see if this is good or not. So let's work with first strategy, just to keep. Okay, so I'll just play rounds, and before I play, I had a hunch, or I have a conjecture that keep my choice, let's say my first choice, is what I should do. And so we're going to play with this and see how we do. Of course, this is probability. It's not like 100% sure, it's not certainty. So we need to see if we were lucky or not and kind of go beyond just these samples. Let's see. So let's play this first game. And let's say I'm going to pick this for me. Let's mark it in blue for now. And then, okay, we need to I need to kind of close my eyes for a minute, and so that the calaveras now, they're gonna see, okay, they see that the calavera is here, right? So let's just pretend I didn't see that. So the calaveras eat these two pieces, yum yum. Okay, and they say, you wanna change or not? Okay, I wanted to keep my first choice, so I say I don't change. So I'm gonna rebuild. No calavera. So the calavera was actually here. So I did not change. So I lose. Okay, maybe I just was not too lucky. So I'll just say L here, just to say that I lost this game. Let's play some more rounds now that you see. And I really encourage you to, when you meet with your commenters, to plan, and also coaching, of course, you play some rounds to gain some experience. Try to do it not alone, because then it's gonna be hard, as you're seeing in this video that it was, I needed some previous help. So the best is that you just do it with one partner. Okay, so for my second game, I'm just gonna pick here, let's say. Let's ask Muertos for help. They see that the calavera is here, and so they're gonna eat these two. Guarantee you that there is no calavera. And I keep my choice. I look, no calavera. It was here, so I also lose. Okay. Well, so far it's just two, so hopefully we'll win at least one. The round I'm gonna play here again. Muertos have the power. They don't see calaveras. So those gonna whichever two of these three, and they say, you want to change? I say I don't. Okay, I won. I won because I got the calavera. And so it kind of goes like that. Let's make it a little quicker now. So one here. Let's make these choices. Just to pick whatever. And here, let's see what happens. So I'm just gonna play Muerto power here. Again, this can be, of course, a very interesting discussion about Dia de Muertos. Whether you know or not know much, you can involve, many students will probably know in this conversation what would be the meaning of Muertos helping you, why then they like or don't like the calaveras. And you just have a lot of family bonding here, or sharing the family traditions. So this is what in each round the Muertos did. And so I lost if I kept my first choice, and that was not calavera. So it was here, here. So it was here and here. And then in these two games, I actually won. So yeah, another potential problem from when you do this activity is that if you just play 3 rounds, 4 rounds, or even 6, 7, it may still, probability, you never know, right? That's why it's probability. So you may not be able to conclude. Of course, if you play 30 or 100, well, it's going to be much more likely. So you have to also go beyond the experiments, beyond the trials. So you start with that, but that shouldn't just be the, the ultimate goal. But let's just keep track here how many we won. So we won 3, but we lost a lot, right? We lost 6. So it seems that not a very good strategy. And at this point, you may see that, yeah, regardless of what the Muertos do, if you keep your first choice, that's kind of saying, I don't use the information of the Muertos, right? They could just not visit me at all. And I would just, have a 1/4 chance because there's 4 slices and only 1 calavera. So this strategy is pretty bad because it actually only gives me 1 out of 4. I'm not using any information after I choose because that's my strategy, keep my first choice. So that's going to be the conclusion when you, of course, read these with detail. We have these detailed solutions, but the conclusion is that this strategy of keeping your first choice, it's bad. It's just 25%, which here in this, in this experimental probability, it was 3 out of 9, so 1/3. So we did a little better than expected, actually. Let's see the next idea, which is always change, right? So change my first choice. Again, this is gonna be the best strategy. We'll try to experiment, but students could also say, remember, sometimes I change, in some rounds I'll change, in some other I'll keep, and then, well, it's gonna be more messy to calculate the probability after many rounds. But that's another possibility, another possible choice, and you should discuss with students. Maybe say, okay, but if you were to, have just one strategy forever, what would you? So that's some math discussion there. So let's play this again, and hopefully I don't remember the choices I made. So I'll just randomly pick things here. So these are my first choices in each game. Let's just play the first game, step by step, which is this game. So Muertos visit us. Okay, they see that there's a calavera here. They hide it, and they're gonna eat these two. And since my strategy is change my first choice, I'm gonna actually pick, I picked the blue before, but now I switch to orange, so I actually win. So let me mark that. Let's label this with a W, so I won. And yeah, the intuition is, well, if you only had 25% of winning, that means that if you switch, there's going to be a 70% chance. Why? Well, because the Muertos helped, right? The Muertos removed those 2 slices that absolutely had no calavera. So I'm sure that if I made a bad choice at the beginning with 25%, that's equivalent to making a good choice by switching. And 25 becomes 75. That's the key insight. And it's not, it's not necessary that students will click just by saying the magic words, but that's where you want to get at. And there's many tools like trees or diagrams or, these rounds that we're playing. There's several ways to, to reason that out, but let's keep playing. Let's see what the Muertos can give us. And so it's also a beautiful story. We're using information from the Muertos. So, because, well, yeah, we're using information in a subtle way because we're changing restricted to the unique breadth that may or may not be, with a calavera, but it's much more likely that it is because calaveras ate breads that didn't have. So they're removing, bad choices for us. So let's see what we have. So I'll just mark a win whenever I see that the calavera was in an orange slice, which seems to be a lot. Okay. The last two I did not win, I lost. So let's do the simulation. And it's really important that you do this, with your students. So these are the breads that are gonna be eaten by the muertos. And then, I win a lot. Here I also lose. Okay, so it was, it's interesting. We also got the 6-3. So that was just coincidence. So six wins and 3 losses. Okay. So that's the simulation. And this is a diagram here, top, when you look at the solutions. Your first pick, it guarantees you a 25% of winning. So if your strategy is keeping that, no matter how muertos play, you'll be stuck with 25%. Sorry, this should be a 75 here. So this is a nice way to see it. It's kind of a weighted probability. Whatever the muertos pick, since the muertos can tell, each slice of the muertos have a 0% chance of having the calavera, right? That's a fact. They know there's a 0% chance. And you have to add to 100, right? Because, when you have events that are mutually exclusive events, right, and don't overlap, all the possible cases, well, it needs to add 100%. So the other slice has to have a 75% of being correct and not 25. Because if it had 25, then you would only win or have a probability or a possibility to win in 50%, and that wouldn't make much sense. So that's the idea. You could also see a diagram like this. If you keep your strategy, if your first pick is correct, you will win. And if your first pick is wrong, those are the 4 cases, right? You will lose, right? Now in the change strategy, the second one, there's 4 possibilities, right? These 4 breads. And if your first pick was correct, was actually the calavera, and you change, you will lose. Any other of the 3 breads, each is 25, right? So these are the other 3 breads that didn't have calavera. In any of these 3 cases or scenarios, since the muertos clean you the other 2, you will actually, when you change, you will automatically land in the calavera. So they go to the calavera, all 3, all 25, 25, 25 of the breads, of the slices, will make you win. So that's your 75 right there. It's 3 times 25. And it's not just a 25. So it's kind of saying that there's 3 ways to win. Just don't pick the calavera at the beginning, and then you'll win. So 75% chance. Funny game, very interesting. These are also, very cool challenges, and let's talk a little bit about them now. Let's say only one muerto came, so the other was sleeping or just did not appear, or you only had one muerto to play this game. So it needs less help, right? Less information. And so now it's gonna be similar, but it's not gonna be that that good or that likely to win. But it's the same at the beginning. If you keep your red, you definitely have 25%. But now one Muerto removes this, so you could think about now you have to pick one of these. So it's kind of rolling a coin or a die of two outcomes, and you have to take a chance. Are you gonna win or not? And you can reason and calculate the answer. So I'll leave that to you, not to spoil the joy of doing this probability, but hopefully you can use the same ideas. With 5 pieces, what would happen? So similar. And then another variation to the game, as we said, you can maybe ask students that already kind of see the patterns more generalization, right? There's several parameters, and so there's several Pan de Muerto games that they could play, and they could also surprise you with new games or new other things. So hopefully you like this game. Maybe you're confused, and that's totally fine. This is by experience very confusing puzzle at the beginning. Some people just immediately click and get it, and some others will just struggle in a productive way and just argue and just say, I don't see it. Even if you show them the 3 and if you show them the proof or the probability, they just won't believe in it. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting mathematical puzzle. Enjoy.